What does it take to stop looking to everyone else for answers and finally trust yourself? In today's episode, I'm sitting down with Iris Goldfeder, founder of Gas Stove Creative, an all-in-one marketing solutions company. Iris's journey is like anything but a straight line. From losing a job to a near-death experience with COVID to building what she calls her most successful business yet. And she did it by doing something a lot of us struggle with. She stopped outsourcing her authority. We're talking about what it means to really show up authentically in your marketing, why you might be invisible to your ideal clients right now, and the difference between all the confusion around SEO, AEO, GEO, and AIO. Yes, there are 4 of them now, and it can be overwhelming, but we break it down simply, and she takes us through what some of the mistakes we might be doing in our marketing that is preventing us from being found. If you've ever felt like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall with your marketing and you're just not getting the results you want, this episode's for you. Welcome to Main Street Success Stories. I'm your host, Jennifer Koch, entrepreneur, business coach, and founder of Next Wave Business Coaching. My first business I opened 2 days before giving birth to my second daughter. But then I grew it for 20 years. I grew it from a local bakery into a national brand and eventually sold it for a profit. I know firsthand how tough the odds can be. Only 1 out of 2 small businesses make it to year 5. That's why I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs change those statistics through coaching, mentoring, and this podcast, where I share real stories of others, their success, their struggle, their mindset shifts, their fears, and lots of wins along the way. Because none of us are alone in this journey of entrepreneurship, and I want to make sure that you have the support you need. My goal is simple: to inspire you, motivate you, and show you there's a path to building a profitable business. So let's dive into the next episode of Main Street Success Stories. Welcome, Iris. I am excited to talk with you today.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, Iris, you are the founder of Gas Stove Creative, which I love that name, and you are an all-in-one marketing solutions, but you didn't start there. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and kind of a little bit of your journey to being all-in-one marketing solutions.
So I started this originally out of necessity because I lost my job. And this was like 11 years ago. I didn't want to collect unemployment. I'm not one of those people that could just sit home and look for a job. Like, it would have driven me insane. And one of my former clients said, hey, let's, start a marketing or a website company. So I was like, okay, so we talked and we weighed the pros and cons, and there were more pros than cons. I was like, sure, let's do it. And it went great for about 5 years, and then it didn't. And when it didn't, it was one of those things that for me, I could see those final breaths. It was just like, okay, it's time. So that iteration ended. And then I kind of put this on hold for a few years to go into a partnership with a friend, and that ended. And when that ended, this started. And what was weird was, I think the catalyst was when COVID hit. I got COVID. 3 months after I got COVID, I almost died from it.
Oh, wow.
But they didn't tell me that because they were supposed to keep my blood pressure down and everything. So they didn't want me freaked out and everything. And then when they told me, oh yeah, by the way, everything is good, everything is chronic, you're going to be okay. And I said, what do you mean I'm going to be okay? And they were like, well, we didn't want to let you know, but if you didn't come when you came, you probably wouldn't have made it to the next day.
Wow.
So rather than what, you're starting to get to know me, things don't happen the way they normally do, right? Normally you find out that you almost died, and all of a sudden you have this like giant revelation, right? Well, I didn't find out until way after. And then I was like, I want to do all the things, but I want to do all the things right. So I called up Kofi. We started the podcast that you were just on.
Yeah.
And, that was the first leg of it. And then the second leg was, okay, what do I do with this business? Like, I have this really great business. And then, fate kind of stepped in, as it always does, or the universe. And I started getting these people that had these different needs. And I have no employees. I work with all contractors. So it became like this game of Tetris. And then it started to really come clear to me that there really wasn't anything in the market where there were all of these contractors that these people wanted to hire, but they're not talking to each other. So why don't I get all of the people that I know are the best of the best and have them as my contractors to get all the stuff done. And that's what we've done. And each year, we're growing each year. This year, we're starting to do packages because it's just getting so kind of, crazy. But the convenience is that instead of somebody working with like 20 different people that aren't talking to each other, so there's this project and there's all these little pieces to it, but nobody, your right hand doesn't know what your left hand is doing. With us, you don't have to worry about it.
And boy, I've been on the receiving end of having a lot of different contractors, and there's a lot of gaps when you try to manage it as the owner and you
Yeah.
think you're saving yourself money. And you're really not because,
Uh-uh.
first of all, you don't know the lingo, you don't know the language. The digital marketing landscape is changing at such a rapid rate that as an entrepreneur, you cannot be so well versed in every aspect of it. That's why
Yeah.
we have people like you. And yes, it can be exhausting just trying to manage this pool of different contractors. And like you said, they're not talking to each other. So there's going to be gaps that happen. And it's interesting hearing your journey because I had somebody ask me once, what's your favorite part of your podcast? And what is the common theme you see when you interview all these different entrepreneurs? And the common theme I see is not one entrepreneur I have talked to had this plan. We all have a plan that went from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, this nice linear path to success. Every single person has pivoted, changed, dropped a business partner, added a business partner, started out doing this, now is doing that. And I just love that about entrepreneurship because it just shows the core of who we are. We're adaptable people, we're curious people. And like you said, necessity is the mother of all invention, right? So you were at a place where I'm going to do something. But that's interesting because that something is now very different than where you are today, just because you had to adapt and change as the market changed and as your life changed.
Yeah. And so something hit me just last night. It was so funny. You know how you get these epiphanies and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was it.
So I was sitting here and I was looking at the through line, like why has this iteration been so successful and the others weren't? And I realized it's because I'm not leaning on anybody else. Like I'm going to get teary, right? Because the first
Yeah.
one I felt like I needed a partner. And the second one I needed a partner. Not having a partner has
Mm.
shown me that, it's almost like put your big girl pants on and do the thing. And not only have I put my big girl's pants on and done the thing, I'm kicking ass at the thing, right?
Yeah.
And it was just this like moment last night, and I looked at my wife and I was like, that was it. That was it. I didn't believe in myself enough to think that I could do it alone. So I felt that I needed that outside help. And I don't anymore, and that was a hell of a revelation last night. I was just like, "Whoa." And we always say 3 things that we're grateful for before we go to bed, like, right before we go to bed.
Mhm.
And I said, "I'm really grateful that I had those experiences,"
Sure.
right? And that now I'm able to realize that I don't need that. So it was
And
huge.
that is huge, and I love that for you because mindset is probably a bigger piece of the game than having a really good business strategy.
Uh-huh.
And belief is such a core. And we don't have bosses and people coworkers that are kind of helping us along and taking us along. We are the ones that have to find it deep within us. And like we just said, nothing's linear. Success doesn't happen just automatically. You
Mm.
have to believe in yourself. And that is such a cool revelation because look where it's brought you today. And
Mm.
you talk about how you're kicking ass, and I love that. And you're seeing some success. And you had said once that part of it, your success came from stop outsourcing your authority. And it sounds like that was probably a partner. You were,
Yeah.
outsourcing your authority to a business partner. And what else do you mean by that? Like where does that show up for you?
I think that, at the end of the day, we have to believe in ourselves, right? We have to believe in, where we are for a reason. We got here for a reason, right? We got here through our tenacity, blood, sweat, tears, whatever you want to call it. And when you outsource that, when you give that, I don't want to say the credit because that's not the right word, but when you give that authority to somebody else and don't own it as your own, you're really taking away from your own experience and, your voice basically. And so for me, it was again like that aha moment last night, but, always turning to others, like looking to them for authority rather than looking to myself because I I've had the answers all along.
I think that's really challenging, especially I see this a lot with my clients who mostly are women entrepreneurs. And I'm not sure where this comes from, and I think it could be a result of the world we live in, with the social media. We always get to see everybody's highlight reel. Very few people show, my gosh, I'm here in the trenches, showing up every day doing the same thing. And for some reason, we struggle with the word expert or the authority because
Mhm.
I don't want to come across as being, bossy, or I don't want to come across as being this, she thinks she's all that.
But we need to, right? Because guys have no problem walking in, flaunting their feathers and like,
Yeah.
I'm the shit basically, right? And we don't. We're kind of like, okay. It was like, I'll give you a perfect example. I run a not for profit, and my partner, who's my co-founder in it, um, she was working on the program today, last night or whatever. She's been working on the program. And I said, you did a really kick ass job, great job. And rather than her saying, "Hey, thanks," she said, "Well, all I did was take last year's and kind of copy it." And I said, "Take the win.
Yeah.
Take the win. Thank you, Iris. I appreciate you saying it." And then she puts
Yeah.
up this like emoji. And if you met this woman, you'd be like, "Really?" You know what I mean? So I think that society raises us, our parents raise us because we're women. Don't be too loud, don't be too upfront. If you need help,
Mhm.
there's a big strong man that's gonna help you. And I'm not gonna curse on here because I don't know if I can or not, but you know what I wanna say, right? It's like, F that. No, that's no. Because we've been taught that, that's been ingrained in us. Skylar agrees. And I kind of feel like as we grow, as we evolve, right? We start realizing that no, you know what? You didn't bust your ass to get me here. I did. You
Yeah.
didn't go through the trial and error and heartache and all of the, nights where it was like, oh my God, am I going to have to get a job? Where your wife is looking at you going, you have a couple of months. If you don't get this right, you got to get a job.
True. Right.
And it's like, so so when we've gone through that, I think we get the wherewithal to be able to go, you know what? I am strong. I am badass. I am gonna own it. This is just the beginning, right? It's like, whatever's next is gonna be, even bigger and better than this. And I think that the sooner that we allow ourselves to accept that, the sooner, we're rocking because, and that goes with outsourcing your authority, right? It's not allowing your strength to shine through and
Right.
your badassness, I guess.
And, I see it show up for business owners in a lot of different ways. You see over explaining, like you just said, even we have a hard time just saying thank you. I mean, I've seen that with women. Oh my gosh, what a cute blouse you have on today. Oh, I just got it at the discount rack. And,
"Oh, you
yeah,
like it? TJ Maxx, $3.99. I don't
right.
care about that. Just
Yeah,
thank you. I'm glad you like my shirt," right?
exactly. So if you take nothing away from today, just go out there and say thank you.
Thank you.
And And we also struggle looking for others to validate us. And then, that shows up in the way we price ourselves, especially for service
Oh,
based businesses.
yes. Yep.
So, how do you kind of overcame this just being in the trenches? One failure led to a success. Any tips for people on how to start to overcome this besides just own it? I love how you have 3 gratitudes a night. I always say to my clients, write down a win every day. We're
Uh-huh.
always so focused on what's next and what we didn't do or what we didn't get to. Do we ever reflect back and look at how far we've actually come?
And that goes to those 3 gratitudes, right? Because it's like, maybe you had the worst day ever. Maybe anything that could possibly have gone wrong went wrong. But guess what? There are at least 3 things in there that you can find to be grateful for. And that's why we do it because, it's really easy to be an Eeyore,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Especially in today's world. You just turn on
Especially
the
in today's, oh
TV and
my
you can be an Eeyore.
God, I
Yeah.
can't even turn the TV on anymore. I
Right.
can't even,
Yeah.
it's just like anyway, so that's a whole 'nother
Yeah.
podcast.
We
Uh,
won't go there.
but excuse me. But, but I just kind of feel like, when you feel like you're in that muck, kind of reach down and look at what got you as far as you are, because we all start somewhere. And I guarantee you where you are today is, multitudes further than when
Right.
you started. Because it's really easy to look at, oh man, my pipeline's not full, or, this isn't happening, or this isn't
Or
happening.
compare yourself to others that
Oh,
seem to have it
that's
all
like
going on.
That's a death
Yeah.
knell. As soon as you
Yep.
start comparing yourself to other businesses,
Yeah.
just stop because you are never going to be them. You're never gonna be them.
And you don't
You are
want to be
you,
them.
and you
And you
don't
don't
wanna be them.
want.
No, like,
Yeah.
not at all. I mean, I remember I used to look at people and be like, "Oh, man, they're really successful. I wish I could do that." And then would meet them, and it's like never meet your heroes, right? Because then you know all the crap that goes on behind the scenes, and it's like, "Oh, I don't wanna be you. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good right where I am. I'll keep my crap. You keep your crap because, whoa, and it happened,
Yeah.
like, quite a bit in the past couple of years for me, not that I was, like, wishing I was them, but I'm like, "Man, they really have their act together. I really wanna have a conversation with them and, get to know them." And I remember this one woman, I'm clearly not gonna mention her name, but, she's very well known and all this other stuff, and, a lot of people look up to her, and we had a conversation. For some reason, people just love telling me their life story. Well, she just, like, let loose, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing a lot better than I thought." You know? So
Exactly. I mean, it's
so don't look
important
to
to
other
have
people.
mentors. It's important to have people in your life that can help you with these things. But yeah, comparison. And the other thing I think that really gets in the way is, fear of other people's opinions. Like,
Yeah, you
just
can't.
stop. Yeah. We have to,
There's a saying, right? "What other people think of you is none of your business."
yeah. Great saying. Great
Right?
saying. I love
It's
that.
because it's not like, first off, I remember, a while ago, there was this one person I was like, "Oh my god, every time she looks at me, she's probably think she hates my guts and whatever." And I remember, we were at a networking event, and I was like, "Screw it, I'm gonna go over and talk to her." And we started talking, and I said, "So how come every time you look at me, you have this, like, almost like this disdain?" And she's like, "No." She was like, "Not at all." Like, not even a little. She said, she goes, "You must be looking at me like every time I'm, like, pondering something." And so, part of me was like, "Okay, maybe that's true," but for it to be every time, whatever. And now we're, like, really good friends, and we joke about it. But it was just one of those things where I was like, "Oh my god, she hates me." Like, she absolutely can't stand me, and had nothing to do with anything other than her, pondering. I
Yeah.
think we spend, and I think that's what's wrong with the world. I will throw that out there. Everybody worries about everybody else's crap. Worry about your own.
Right.
Worry about getting your own business going. Worry about, don't look at what Jane Doe is doing or John Doe is doing. Don't look at that, because all that's going to do is distract you, and it's going to frustrate you because you are never going to be them. And your business is never going to look like their business because it's not their business, it's your business. So you need to really, you know, work on what you're doing and focus on what you're doing. Like, this year, I know, I already have, the steps in place to go out and kick ass. Like, we're laying the foundation for this to be probably our best year ever. Not probably, this will be our best year ever thus far. Um, and not by design. It's by design.
Right. It's not by luck, it is by
It's not by
design.
luck. Yeah.
Yes. All right, so let's tap into your expertise because you
Okay.
are a all-in-one, one-stop shop when it comes to marketing. And visibility for small business owners is tough. Small business owners, first of all, as you know, when they're in the growth, they're in the couple 100,000 a year and they're just trying to grow. They're wearing all the hats still. They're starting to delegate a little bit here and there, but a lot of it's still falling on their lap. And they get so overwhelmed with posting, email, what to say, when to say it. And then at the end of the day, they say to me things like, "I'm still not getting people into my world. I'm still not being found." What do you think is missing in a lot of the clients that come to you who want help with their marketing? What do you see is missing a lot in that puzzle?
A few things. I think that number one, they're not hanging out in the right spaces. They're not hanging out where their clients are. They're not hanging out where their clients' are. And I did a video on this on LinkedIn, I think, like, last month, and it was one of those. I get all these, like, download, aha moments, right? It's like, oh, and I remember it was like a couple of years ago. I was working with one of my clients, and he's like, "I'm not being seen." And I'm like, "Because you're not where you need to be." You do X for a living. So let's say you're a coach. You should be on LinkedIn. You can also be on Instagram. You can do LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, but really, mainly, you need to be on LinkedIn, right? Because that's where your clients are hanging out. They could be hanging out on Instagram, but most likely they're on LinkedIn. If you're a service-based business, let's say that you're, a pest control company or a roofer or something, right? You want to be on Facebook, you wanna be on Instagram, you also wanna be on Nextdoor. Nobody thinks about Nextdoor. Nobody thinks about
Right.
Nextdoor, and Nextdoor is great because that's where everybody's looking for people to fix stuff, right? So, it's like, you need to be where your clients are, but then also where your clients' clients are, because that's where your
That's
client
interesting.
right? It was one of those things that I was explaining it in the video. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a little confusing, but it's true because your clients' clients are hanging out in a certain place, right? And that's where your clients should be. That's where you should be. Because
So
not
give us
only are
an
you going to find your
example,
clients, but you're going to, so,
like a roofer, for instance.
okay, a roofer, somebody's on Instagram, right? And they need a roof, or they're on Pinterest and they're looking for roofing ideas, or they're on Nextdoor and they're looking for a roofer, or they're on Facebook, right? And they're looking for a roofer. That's the client's client. That's not my client. That's my
Right.
client's client, right? So now my client knows that, okay, this is where they need to be. Now, for the client's client, so we'll say we'll go back to like a roofer, right? Pinterest, they're looking for ideas on,
Colors and
how do I
shingles
do
and
this? Or, my husband's a DIYer and he's trying to fix the hole in the roof. What do we do? And then the roofer can be at Pinterest and going, you don't want to DIY it, right?
yeah.
We can help. So there's like, it's like, what was it? 6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon, right?
Yeah.
So that's basically what it is. So, for me, I always hang out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram because that's where all my clients are. All of them, whether they're coaches, whether they're business, and then their clients are on Nextdoor. So I'll go on Nextdoor to see what new companies, come up.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay, so
if that
that's a
gives it like that,
yeah,
if that
that's
explains well.
great. So that's a big miss is that we are not hanging out where our clients are. It's interesting you bring up we're using the trades right now as our example. And I had a client who owns a painting business, and she said, everyone thinks the trades are real masculine, the plumber, the HVAC, but who's the person who's making the phone call and who's the person who's signing the check? It's the woman of the
It's the
house.
woman.
And so a lot of these companies are marketing to the men, all these
Yep.
masculine type, topics, where really at the end of the day, it's the woman who most of the time is handling those decisions. So I thought that was kind
Yeah.
of interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So what else are you seeing besides not hanging out in the right room is kind of a miss to be found?
I don't think that they're visible enough. I'm a huge proponent of video. So
Okay.
if you're a coach, if you are a, B2B
Hmm.
company, I really, really believe deeply in video because this is it. You put a video on LinkedIn, you can't hide,
Yeah.
right? You can't, I put these videos out and I had a couple of people make comments because I don't, it's like I'm going to be doing batch videos today when we get done, right? I have Kofi and I are booked for like 2 something hours. And all that I do is I pick the topics that I'm going to talk about, and I talk about them. And I don't have anything scripted. I don't have anything pre-written. And a lot of people are like, well, you should really do that because it looks unpolished. But that's not me. I'm not going to go on there and be an infomercial. That's not what I'm here for, right? I'm here to, give people advice, talk to people about stuff, impart whatever knowledge that I can, on people and also sell stuff. But I don't, sales isn't my main focus because as we discussed, I'm not a transactional business. Like for me, it's not transactional. It's all about relationship and that's it. So if you want to run a relationship based business, this is what you need. You need video. You need people to be able to, because you can post all day long. They're not really going to get to know you.
And I think, especially, in today's world, we hear this all the time that we are in a trust deficit. And the only
Huge.
way people are going to get to know you is like what we've talked about before is relational and seeing your face. And I prefer to watch somebody's video that's just showing me their expertise, showing me who they are versus a very scripted, cutesy, polished video. For one, most of us don't have a budget to hire a video editor to create those cute little videos. And so I think we look for those excuses to stop us from showing up. So what I'm hearing from you is just go out there and do a video and just talk about one thing. Answer one
Yeah.
question you get on a regular basis.
Just be you. I think at the end of the day, and you said, there is a huge trust deficit, right? But to me, the biggest compliment is when I meet somebody in person and they're like, "Oh my God, you're just like you are in the video." I'm like, "Well, yeah, because that's who I am." It's
Yeah.
like that's who I am. And I have met people that I've seen on video, and I'm like, "Okay, you're you."
Yeah.
And it's so and you can tell. Like, I'll be watching people's videos and I'm like, "All right, that's whatever, or, oh, okay, this is somebody that I want to learn more. I want to, know more.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to spot. I mean, for me it is, but I make a living doing that.
Right. And your role is to help your clients be authentic and show up authentically. So, okay, let's
100%.
talk about a topic that is big. It's technical. I don't want to get in the weeds of the technical, but I feel like as we evolve in the digital world, we really need to understand this as business owners. And that is the old SEO, AEO, GEO, EIEIO, right? I'm
Yes.
hearing this more and more, and maybe this is someone just trying to sell me into SEO services, but I
Mm.
feel like I'm hearing this coming up a lot. But what I'm hearing is the shift of AEO, which is the artificial intelligence. But tell us very simply, I guess, what are the differences of all of these, and what do we need, and why do we need them?
So SEO has changed, right? SEO was really based more on keywords. So that would help you rank. Is sorry, my child wants to.
That's okay. We're dog lovers over here, so I love hearing a dog in the background. I'm good with it.
Okay, cool. Then you're gonna hear them because I think Amazon is here or something. So no, Piper just saw a deer. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Well, that's deserving of barking
I
then
mean,
for the dog
it's
to see a
yeah,
deer.
and
That's
now
pretty fun. Yeah.
I'm gonna close the door in a minute, but okay. So SEO is rank, right? It's like keywords, what keywords? So it would be like SEO agency, Lafayette, Indiana, right? That's a keyword. AEO is like, be the answer. So it's answer engine optimization. Instead of search engine optimization, it's answer engine optimization.
Okay, I'm so glad you clarified that because I thought it was about artificial intelligence
No, that's
optimization.
AI. So
So there's
there's
one of those too.
SEO, GEO, AEO, and AIO. And then I joked on my video, it's going to be EIEIO. Yeah, by the
Right,
time we're
right.
done, right? Because it's just like crazy. So SEO is search engine optimization. AEO is answer engine optimization, meaning that you should already have this is going to get, so you basically have to have the answer and the copy on your website already that somebody's looking for.
Okay.
And if that's getting annoying, let me know. And I can just run real quick and let them outside if you're okay. Do you want to?
No, we're good. We're fine.
Okay. And then AIO is how you get recommended by Chat and Gemini and all the different AI engines, right? So that's AIO. And GEO is it's it's generative engine optimization. So it's how do you generate the narrative that's going to help you show up. So it's really the order that it was SEO, DEO, IO, AEO. And it's still evolving. And it's
Okay.
like every week it's something new. What worked in November, December doesn't work now, which is crazy. But it's not even algorithms anymore because now it's people are changing the narrative, the way people search. It used to be, like I said, SEO agency Lafayette, Indiana. Then it was, help me find the best SEO agency in Lafayette, Indiana. And then it went to help me find the best SEO agency in Lafayette, Indiana that gets me results, that gets the best results, right? And then it's
Okay.
like, and then the AEO piece would be, um, you know, um, how do I how do I utilize my website to get me found in these searches, right? And that could be the question, and then the answer on the website, could be something like, okay, in order for you to get found on Google and the other search engines, you need to blah blah blah. And so the answer is already there. And so you come up in the snippets, and so it's all, and that's GEO is part of, coming up in the snippets too, AI. It's all part of, you put something in, and instead of just coming up on the map or the blue links, you come up on the snippets. And
Okay.
that's where the money is now. And then also, if you're in Chat or Gemini or Claude or any of the, AI programs, and you type something in there, right? You're looking for, I know I'm working on this, but I'm thinking about, a really great burger by where I am, and I'm in Lafayette, Indiana. Can you tell me where it is? And bam, it shows up. So it's not just search engines anymore. It's everything. It's like all inclusive. And it's going to be who knows what in, the next couple of years.
So that's pretty complex. And it sounds
It's
like to the average small business owner who's maybe a solo, just has one or two contractors on their team, expensive. We don't have the budgets to be pouring into all of this. So, what is kind of your recommendation to a small business owner? It used to be blogging, right? It used to be make sure you
blogging is
blog
still
once a
good because
month.
that's where they get everything from now, right? So,
So, blogging is still key.
yep, blogging 100% key.
Okay.
And try to answer as many questions as you can
Okay.
in your copy and have an FAQ section
Oh,
for
there you
sure.
go. So those are some really simple ways that we could implement this at least to help at
Yeah,
least
because
focus on
it's
this a
not
little
cheap.
bit.
It's
No,
not
it's not
cheap,
cheap. And like you said, it's constantly changing.
constantly. And I think one of the things that keep us at the forefront, thank you, is, we just stay on top of it all the time. We're constantly at, okay, like we used to meet quarterly, my SEO team and I. Now we meet weekly.
Wow, that just
Yeah.
shows you.
Yeah, and we're also slacking throughout the week if something else changed. It's just constant communication back and forth, learning, what's changed. And I think, the biggest thing is you need to Phew, I don't want to use this to sell. I mean, you need to have a website that converts. A lot of people just have websites that are brochure sites. You need something that's actually going to do work for you. So whether you build that yourself, whether because there are a lot of DIYers out there and
Sure.
DIY works for a while, right? I mean, it
Yep.
does work for a while. And where for the person that when they hit the end of their DIY, they're like, oh my God, I can't DIY anymore. That's when they call us because
Right.
they're like, I can't anymore. And they're really frustrated at that point.
How do you
And
know? Like, maybe this is too broad of a question, but how do you know when your website isn't converting for you anymore? Is it like, are there certain metrics that you should be looking at, or does it depend on, like, for me, let's use me as an example. I'm a consultant, so people click on the book a discovery call. If I'm not getting those on a regular basis, or that starts to dry up, is that a sign that my website's not really converting?
yes, that
Okay.
and you're not driving people to your website.
Okay. So driving people to your website is really the key.
So talking about it in your social because having a site that converts has SEO built into it so that when you are ready and you do have the money, you can pull the trigger and it's not like reinventing the wheel. It's already built in. So it makes it easier. And having a site that flows really nicely. But I think what a lot of people do, and I'm working with somebody now who she just kind of like threw a whole bunch of stuff together and she's like, I keep throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what's going to stick. She's
Right,
like,
right.
I'm not a cook, just redo it. So we're redoing her site. But it has to be flow and it has to make sense. And not just for your reader, yes, 100% for the user. The user experience must be, really well received. So they need to be able to go to your site the second they get like the minute as soon as your site pops up and they see that hero image, within 3 seconds, you have to tell them how you solved their problem. Period. And if you can't do it under 3 seconds, figure out how because we have 0 patience anymore, so they're on to the next site that can.
I remember reading a statistic once that it was 7 seconds, and I think that was just in 2024. So it's already gone down more than
3
half.
seconds.
3 seconds. So you've got to solve their problem in 3 seconds with
Yeah,
your
or
message.
yeah, show them how, right? And then once they're like, "Okay, so they solved my problem." Now they wanna go down further, right? So then it has to make sense. So everything needs to be able it's like connect the dots. This goes here, this goes here, this goes here. So it's flow. It's, how okay, you can solve my problem. How do you solve my problem? What do you do to solve my problem? So you're last. Like what you do is last. I had a client tell me once, I don't care how you make the sausage, just make the damn sausage, right? It's just like I don't care what's in it. So how you do it, they don't care. They just wanna know that you can do it. So
That you
so you
can.
wanna do that. And then also, Google needs to be able to read your website like a book. So if it was
Hmm.
like chapter 1, chapter 2, again, it all has to have flow and make sense. Yeah, and I think that's all I'm gonna give away
Well,
to
that's
start.
that's a great stuff, and I
Yeah,
really appreciate you kind of helping us understand it because our time is limited, our resources are limited, and I
mhm,
know that businesses spend a lot of time on marketing and they're not getting the results that they want. So, last question for you. Where does the name Gas Stove Creative come from?
So, finally, my first partner that we talked about, his last name began with an S. My last name begins with a G, and my wife's last name begins with a C. And I'm really glad we didn't take each other's name. Now that I'm just gonna throw that out there. So I knew the C was gonna be creative. Like I knew for a fact, but it was like, what do we do with the G and S? Or, and we were going back and forth. And it was definitely going to be G and S because he goes, well, we could do SG something. And I'm like, no, that was like, no, this is, mine. So then we just started going back and forth for the whole day and sending some crazy names to our friends. And then like literally 11 o'clock at night, I was like, gas stove creative. Now we're cooking.
We
And
have
that
it.
did it. Now we're cooking, didn't stick, but the rest did. And I used to be a chef. So
Oh, so it had a personal tie as
it
well.
had, yeah, and that's why the cookbook and, everything is, and if you notice it, like I'm very anal about being brand consistent with myself as well as my clients. Like I'm grabbing my laptop thing now because it's like one of those things that give me a tick in my neck. If you're doing one thing and something else that you're doing under the same brand doesn't match or connect. So we came up with the cookbook. So when I went to Kofi and I was like, okay, I'm ready to do the podcast now before I configured what gas stove was going to be. I'm like, what do we call the podcast? And we sat here for like 3 hours, seriously going, I don't know. And then finally we were like, oh, the cookbook. And it was like,
Right.
duh. So, it was just like one of those. So yeah, so that's
I love it. Well, Iris, you are a wealth of information, and I'm going to encourage listeners to reach out to you. And because, there does come a point where the DIY just doesn't work anymore. And we need to bring in the experts, especially in this evolving so fast, how the digital marketing landscape keeps changing. What is the best way to get a hold of you?
okay. So our website, of course, gasstovecreative.com. There's a contact form on there. I'm also on LinkedIn. Gosh, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm on, Facebook, but mainly LinkedIn. And really, if you want to get to know me, go to LinkedIn and follow me on LinkedIn because you'll see my videos. You'll see, snips of the podcast. Once in a while, I'll wax nostalgic and I'll do like a personal, hey, here's a little bit about me kind of thing. But I think that's really the best way to, I would say LinkedIn, because then you can kind of get to know who I am, because again, for me, it's all relationship based.
I really have appreciated getting to know you. I'm glad our paths crossed. I
Same
really
here.
have such respect for your work.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to that you said 2026 is going to be your best year yet. And I wish you all the best. And thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank your audience too. And the kids, thank you too. So,
Hey, I love hearing dogs in the background. No problem. This conversation is such a good reminder that habits do not just shape our personal lives, they shape our businesses too. Some habits serve us well: the way we lead, the way we follow up, the way we manage our time, the way we care for our clients. And some habits quietly hold us back: avoiding the hard conversations, putting off the numbers, saying yes too quickly, reacting instead of leading. The truth is, every business owner has both. And the longer we stay on autopilot, the harder it is to see clearly which habits are helping us grow and which ones are keeping us stuck. That is one of the reasons I created the Focused Growth Collective. The Focused Growth Collective is a one-on-one strategic advisory and mastermind designed for female business founders leading established service-based businesses so growth becomes deliberate, profitable, and sustainable. It's a space where we look at the patterns behind your business, not just your strategies, but your decision making, your leadership habits, your follow through, your blind spots, and the routines that are either strengthening your business or slowing it down. Because sometimes growth is not about adding more, sometimes it's about strengthening the right habits and breaking the ones that no longer fit the business you're trying to build. So if today's conversation made you reflect on the patterns showing up in your own business, let this be your cue. You do not have to figure it out alone, and I invite you into a conversation to learn about the Focused Growth Collective. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast today. Would you do me a favor and please share it with another entrepreneur you know who could benefit from this conversation? Until next time, keep showing up for yourself and your business, keep leading, the growth will follow.